wow. You see that little knuckle-headed boy on the screen? He was a weird kid. That kid was me. Which makes a really great upbringing for a future black, gay, Jewish culinary historian. And I'm not making up the last part. I really am one of the chocolate chosen, so this feels like a bar mitzvah to me. At any rate, that was my best friend on the table. That was the Collegiate Webster's Dictionary, which gave me my first big word I was very proud of. The word was hermaphrodite. But of course, I did actual kid things like fast food and cartoons and superhero underwear. And one time I got in trouble for trying to boil water to make packaged ramen with heated stones like it was the Stone Age. That's what you do when you're going to be a culinary historian. You experiment. But you know something? Like a lot of African American children, I grew up not liking who I was. I didn't like soul food. I didn't like being black. For most of my life, I've lived at the intersection of the illusion of race and the reality of food. And I'd like to tell you today how I changed my address from loathing to love and revolutionized my approach to both. For the past 500 years, we have changed our relationship with race and food in multiple ways. We turn our relationship with race to shit faster than our food. And that has been endemic of this so-called Columbian era of exchange and contribution, which is full of exploitation and oppression. So how do we solve that? Through culinary justice. Here's the problem. Our tables are impacted by the multiple ways that racism has fed into our food system, from chronic diseases to culinary appropriation. Now, to be clear, culinary appropriation and culinary diffusion are two different things. But when you exploit a people for their culinary heritage, take the best from them and leave the rest, that's culinary appropriation. The solution to which lies in culinary justice. I define culinary justice as the idea that oppressed peoples have the right to not only be recognized for their gastronomic contributions, but they have the right to their inherent value to derive from them uplift and empowerment. So 33 years ago, I learned about this amazing people any gourmet restaurant would love to teach them all about their food and their food culture. They practiced local eating. They ate organically. They sustainably foraged. They gathered, they fished, they hunted. They practiced whole animal cuisine. You know who I'm talking about? You guessed it. Them, my ancestors, the enslaved Africans of the American South. On one side, my great-great-great-grandmother Hattie, born a slave in Alabama. The other side, my great-great-great-grandfather Edward, born a slave in Virginia. Now, what do slaves have to teach us about food in 2016? Their culinary knowledge has the power to save lives, to empower the oppressed, and restore financial and cultural capital to people of color living today. To learn this tradition, I spent 10 years to become the first black antebellum chef since the Civil War. I had to go to the Old South, which is not very different from the New South, but we'll leave that alone. The place where flags and statues don't come down without a fight. But the bottom line is, I began a project called the Cooking Gene. Yes, I picked cotton for 16 hours, it sucks. I began a project called the Cooking Gene, where I explored my food and family routes across the Old South. And I thought if I cooked for people, if I actually had them cook and argue and fight and not have a kumbaya moment, but actually work through their differences, we could actually come up with something new. And you know what? When you call your cuisine soul after something metaphysical, I figure it has the power to transcend difference and work its magic. So, our theme today here is dream. I can't think of a bigger dream than Dr. King's vision of the table of brotherhood. And it's not a metaphor. I've actually seen it. See, that's one of 4 remaining slave cabins on a historic plantation in North Carolina, where in 2013, myself and a group of other black interpreters cooked a meal for 150 people of all different colors and backgrounds. And you know what? The main ingredient that day was mutual respect. We sat down with Southern white folks as cousins rather than combatants. You know what? The ancestors who lived in those cabins, they could never have dreamed of a day when they would be honored by a group of people of different backgrounds sitting together at the same table of brotherhood. So my message today is, you have to keep cooking and eating and dreaming. Thank you.